You can visit there today, and it's more crowded than it usually is, tourists coming through, 2/3 of them with copies of the DaVinci Code under their arm. And they come up to the priest and they say, tell us where this took place and that place. And the priest says, this church has nothing really to do with this book, and what you've read is mistaken. And people sort of shake their head in disbelief and say, well, we know what you're trying to hide. Why has this book been such a powerful bestseller? Well, perhaps this has something to do with it. Rumors of this conspiracy. Americans love conspiracy, and evidently not just Americans, people all over the world. Been whispered for centuries in countless languages. Well, you could probably count them if necessary, but including languages of art, music, and literature. Some of the most dramatic evidence can be found in the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci, which seems to overflow with mystifying symbols, anomalies, and codes. Art historians agree that da Vinci's paintings contain hidden levels of meaning. Well, Dan Brown's wife is an art historian, and Dan took some courses in art history in Spain. There may be one or two other friends, and that would be probably the limit of the art historians who would take this approach. Many scholars believe that his work intentionally provides clues to a powerful secret, a secret that remains protected to this day by a clandestine brotherhood of which da Vinci was a member. Well, that gives you a hint of what lies in the background. Does Dan Brown really believe this? He's given only 2 or 3 interviews since he's published this book. It gives you the impression that he doesn't want to be dogmatic about it and to say that these so-called alternative historical theories are really definitely true, but he says more or less, I was skeptical when I began investigating, and then when I thought about it, it seemed to me that, well, they may be just very well be true. At least they're as credible as the traditional explanations and so on. Here's the headquarters in New York of Opus Dei. Yes, it exists, ladies and gentlemen, and that is its headquarters, and that's about the evidence for the Opus Dei conspiracy. That much is true. Mona Lisa, again, why is she smiling? Is she smiling because this is really Leonardo in drag? This is really Leonardo as a hermaphrodite, a perfect blend of female and male, the blending together the ideal feminine divine and natural male humanity, and so on. Well, that's the thought. This is Leonardo's famous picture of the Last Supper. This is in the monastery, a Dominican monastery of Mary of Grace in Milano, outside of Milano. The top material up here, that's all late, had nothing to do with Leonardo. This picture here, basically of the people around the table, that was Leonardo. This is not a fresco, as Dan Brown refers to it, but it's rather on canvas that is attached with gesso and mastic and other materials to the plaster. Leonardo would not have painted on wet plaster because he worked slowly. You know, if you're going to do a fresco, which is painted into wet plaster, you can't really take weeks and weeks and weeks to do it. The plaster will dry. So because he really didn't work that way, he did it on canvas, and the canvas was affixed to the wall. It's actually done with tempera on stone with a heavy base of gesso, pitch, and mastic, so my art historian wife tells me. It began to deteriorate almost from its inception. There were numerous attempts down through history to restore it, and all of them, but the most recent one, made it worse. Dampness, damage by the doorway. Notice down here at the bottom, there's a sort of an archway here. That's because some abbot got tired of walking about 100 feet around to the other side of the building, but wanted to come into